Now that we have installed Python, we are ready to move on with the Jupyter Notebook demo, one of the first hands-on practices to get started with Python and Jupyter Notebook. In this video, we are going to take a look at getting started with the Jupyter Notebook and running a few basic Python commands. So let's head over to our browser. The Jupyter Notebook is a browser-based system where we can execute our Python commands. It is a platform where different developers can collaborate, and the content that you generate is very publishable. So let's get started. At the top, we have the name of our Jupyter Notebook. In this case, it says a quick tour of IPython Notebook. The next section is about the different menus and options that you have with Jupyter Notebook. The next section deals with handy shortcuts that we will put into use down the line. Since the IPython Notebook is a browser-based platform, we not only have the option to code, we also have the option of beautifying it using HTML commands. So the first thing that you see in bold here, a quick tour of IPython Notebook, is actually an H1 tag in the HTML world. So if I double click that particular cell, the underlying code will be exposed. And there you go. So you can write your own markdowns in this way, where you'll be able to change the font by adding more pound signs and a bunch of other stuff that we may go through down the line. This too will work a little better in interactive mode, so it'll be better if you get your IPython Notebook installed and running and follow along with this tutorial. The first thing that we are going to do is explain how to run cells. So what are cells? Cells are these disparate blocks that I can select throughout my IPython Notebook. So the selected component is one particular cell, and then if I just click below, I get my different cell, and then a different cell. Notice how some of the cells are only responsible for the documentation part, while some other cells we can actually write some Python code and execute it. And this is actually signified by the toolbar up top. So if I click here, it becomes a markdown, and if I click there, it becomes a code cell. So once we've got that out of the way, we can actually import our first data science package in Python that we will use to do extensive exploratory data analysis, named pandas. So we import pandas as PD, which is an alias name, so we don't have to use pandas always. We can just use the short name PD down the line, now that we have imported it. And then we are going to print the below line. A way to run this cell would be to press Control Enter or Shift Enter or Alt Enter. If I press Shift Enter, the current highlighted cell will get executed, and the focus will move on to the next cell. And you can notice that we get the output just below the executed cell, and the focus of our Jupyter Notebook has actually shifted to the cell down below. Now if I again select this cell and press Control Enter, the same thing will happen, but without the shift of focus. So the cell still gets executed, but the highlighted cell is still our current cell. Alt Enter, on the other hand, works a little differently. So if I press Alt Enter here, the current highlighted cell will get executed, and it will actually insert a new cell between these two cells. So let's take a look at it. And there we have it. So the current cell that we had highlighted got executed, and a new cell was inserted in between the two cells. So these are the three ways of running the cell blocks in an IPython notebook. Let's move on to the next feature. One of the most useful things about IPython notebook is its tab completion. So try this. The moment you enter a command like this, so this is the command where we read our CSVs, and then you press Shift Tab, and there you have it. You actually get this plethora of information about this particular function, where you get information about the different parameters that can be passed along with the signature. And if I just hit Shift Tab again, it expands, giving me the full view of the documentation, where I can read about the parameters in details, how they are, what they do, along with other stuff. So this comes in very handy when you want to explore some of the Python functions that are there with this library. I find this amazingly useful, and I think of this as the more confused I am, the more times I should press Shift Tab. Nothing bad will happen if you tab complete even 12 times. So let's try tab completion for function names. In the first case, I knew there is a function called read CSV, but this time I want to explore more about what pandas has to offer. And whenever I hit pd.r and hit tab, it will actually list for me the different functions that I have at my disposal. So I can go and explore each and every one of them in details using the previous step discussed. Writing code in the notebook is pretty normal. So you write your code, you write a function like this, execute it, and then call it. It will show the output in an interactive way just below the executed cell. As of the latest version, the notebooks have autosaves. So have you ever been in a situation where you did a lot of work and then the power went off, and just because you did not save your work, you had to redo it all over again? Well, that does not happen with IPython notebook. The IPython notebook or the Jupyter notebook gives you the options of saving your work periodically, automatically, so you don't have to worry about it. IPython also has all kinds of magic functions. Here's an example of comparing sum with a list comprehension to a generator comprehension using the time magic. So in this case, we see that for every element in this list of numbers, computing the sum of that list takes so much time. So some of the statistics of a particular computation is exposed to me. The magics I use most are percentage time and percentage prune for profiling. You can run percentage magic to get a list of all of them, and percentage quick ref for a reference sheet. So if I execute this, I actually get a reference sheet which can be termed as a cheat sheet, where I can explore my different magic commands and save me from a lot of trouble. You can also do nutty things like run Perl code in the notebook with cell magics. And this is especially cool for things like Cython code, where you can try out Cython really fast with the Cython magic command. So I'm here to execute a Perl command. So I use the magic function for Perls and then write some Perl code. And there we go. That's the output. That's it for now. I believe you have a very fair idea on how to work your way around the Jupyter notebook. And in the next section, we will deep dive into working with data, exploring pandas, and working our way through Jupyter notebook to make all of it happen.